back to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Um, Today we have a fantastic returning guest coming back to us today, Coach Stan Hodgin, who is the offensive coordinator at Shenandoah. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Nick. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, I love having you, Coach. It's always pleasant to talk to you. You're always full of knowledge, so I appreciate you coming on. And um, I mean, first, obviously, for people listening, and this will probably be more mid fall when this comes out, but how was your prior spring season? Because y'all didn't get to play through the spring, and we talked a little bit about it before we came on, but how was that whole experience for you? How was it for your student athletes, etc.?
It was incredibly different than anything I had ever experienced before. Um, it was substantially better than sitting around the office twiddling our thumbs, kind of what we did in the fall. But it just brought about challenges that I don't think any of us had ever faced before, day to day challenges. But it was great to see the guys out there running around and, um, offensive guys fitting up defensive guys and, making guys miss an open space. So, I mean, we got to experience it to some degree. We actually played a 5-game schedule. Um, the funny thing about our 5-game schedule and the way it unfolded this year, we played the same team 3 times. So we really only played 3 opponents this spring, but we did play 5 games. And, so the preparation of playing the same team for the third time in 4 weeks, that was a challenge that I'd never faced before. Um, but overall, it was so much more positive than the alternative. And so we're certainly thankful for the opportunity, and I think it will be it could be and should be a really strong springboard into the fall 21 season.
Now, I had to ask you about doing how does that affect preparation? Because like really the only comparison to that is like NFL teams who really play somebody multiple times. I mean, you might in a rare occasion play say a college team in like a regular season, and then like in a championship game, you might see them again a second time maybe. Um, the NFL, the high school, we typically don't see. You might see it like freshman games where you and like 3 other schools are the only teams in your league with freshman games, so your freshman teams will play each other 2 or 3 times throughout the year. And then you may see somebody in the playoffs again, but even that's rare in the grand scheme of things. So, what was that like for you to have to prep somebody 3 times, and did that alter your preparation at all week to week? Did you have to cause you adjustments? How did that affect you?
Well, it was a really unique situation in multiple ways. I think initially we were scheduled to play Game 4, um, but our Week 1 opponent decided that it was the risk of playing were not worth it, so they canceled the our first game, um, and Bridgewater College, which is our arch rival, that was the team that we ended up playing 3 times. Bridgewater was actually open Week 1. So we made a phone call and they decided it was better to play than be open. And so we played Week 1. I think we had 5 days, 5 calendar days to prepare. Um, so that was a tad unique there, but we did have familiarity with each other. So um, that went pretty well. Then we did play Week 4 as we were scheduled. So we each had 2 games in between our games 1 and 2 against each other. But then we turned around, we played Week 4 and then we played again Week 5, just the plan for the conference and how we were going to do the 5th game. Um, we were paired with each other again. So, um, we made some adjustments between the first and the second game. They made adjustments, obviously, between the first and the second game, and then, we turned around 7 days later and played each other again. And so it was, honestly, at the conclusion of Game 2, we'd pretty much fired all of our bullets. I think defensively for them, they had probably done the same, and so week 3 was more of just a matchup that probably more than any one game I've ever seen, it was going to be who executed the best, because I couldn't anticipate any surprise. We weren't going to have any surprises for them, and as it turned out, they didn't surprise us at all with anything new, and so it just became put an absolute premium, more so than I'm used to, on just execution, because you line up, and I'm sure we're both looking at each other's set saying this is what's getting ready to happen. And so just
Yeah.
that was a challenge, and and a uniqueness of that opportunity.
Now, like, did, and a last question before we get to screens here. Um, did COVID cause you to adjust your playbook at all? With obviously you have a shortened season and a lot of that stuff, and I mean the air raid playbook's already condensed as it is. I mean your offense is the famous offense for we can install our offense in 3 days. Um, but like is there any was there any shrinking or adjustment or changes you made because of COVID, or something you tried because, well, it's a COVID season, we can just do some stuff?
Um, it, we certainly reduced what we were doing. I don't think there was any, well, this is a COVID season, so let's tinker with this or let's experiment with that. We did have a much more condensed install prior to the 5-game season. Uh, Probably if you watched us all 5 games and knew what we were in 19 or in 18, the thing that would jump at you were the reduction in the tags. Um, you know um, the subtle nuances from week to week against coverages. We did not put a premium on that this spring, right, wrong, or indifferent. It was much more of a fundamental approach. We took a very fundamental approach. We tried to center everything that we were doing um, in having carryover to the fall of 21. And so that hopefully when our guys come back in August and we start practice, that we will be further ahead than we typically are, during the preseason. So, I'm sure there was a wide variety of different approaches from across the country for teams that played this spring. That was the approach that we took, and I think the jury will be out until probably mid-October as to whether we decided on the right approach or not.
Okay. Well, today again we're going to talk screens, mainly because I wanted. I don't think it's really a topic that's been broached a lot on my channel in general, but just I'm always looking at how to do it efficiently, whether it be assets we do or don't do, because it gives you ideas, how people coach it, and that's always kind of the interesting thing. And the great thing about some of what Coach brought today, which I'm just showing through my computer because he sent it to me, because Coach is fantastic like that. Um, I mean, he's got several diagrams. He's got practice film, which is what I really love, and I was telling him that before we came on. I love seeing how people practice stuff. That in all honesty, 9 times out of 10 interests me more than game film. I love it because it gives you an interesting perspective in how the people teach. And then we have some game film as well. So I think, like I said, Coach has brought some good stuff. Now, Coach, I mean, obviously, like I said, I'm no air raid wizard. People want to just classify me as a wing T guy, which is a unfair classification, I'll just say, and people can take it as that whether they like it or not. I like offenses that win, so if my kids can do it, that's what we run. So, like, what do you classify this screen as, or how? I mean, obviously, you don't need to give me your verbiage, but in your world, what's this first screen? What are we looking at here, Coach?
Um, I mean, obviously, it's got multiple names. The concept is a tunnel screen concept where we're going to try to create, in our terminology, we're going to try to create a sidewalk inside of the OLB and outside of the ILB and try to get the receiver with the football going vertical in that. And we use the term sidewalk. Some people are going to call this jail. There's multiple other names, but it certainly is our tunnel screen family. And basically what we're going to do here, this is our most expensive screen concept. It gets an awful lot of practice time. And I think you've got to be committed to this, because it does take an enormous amount of your practice minutes. And, when we talked before, we typically are working on offense 75 minutes a day in a typical practice. And so, to devote 10 minutes of that 75 to just this one concept, that is a show of commitment. And so as we look at this and see the diagram here, we are going to take our play side guard. So the diagram, we're throwing the tunnel screen to the right here. We're going to take our play side guard, and he's going to pass set, and then he's going to exit flat down the line of scrimmage, and he's going to kick out the force player. We don't talk about jersey numbers. We don't talk about positions. We talk about responsibilities. So he's going to kick the force player. So in the diagram, that is going to be the outside linebacker. We're going to pass set the center. He's going to work flat. He's chasing the guard. Once he clears the box, he's going to turn vertical. And his responsibility is first wrong color jersey inside. And what often happens, and I'll come back to the player I've got labeled as H in a second, but we run this quite often to a 3 receiver set. So our number 2 receiver not getting the football, the widest receiver, the second widest receiver not getting the football, he's cracking the inside linebacker. So in a lot of ways, or a lot of times, we're going to help the center here. And if in this picture, if the H actually has the inside linebacker sealed, then the center is now free to climb. Again, his responsibility is first wrong color jersey. So you're going to see in these clips, there's quite a few times where he actually gets up on the safety, who is currently unaccounted for. And then the backside guard, he's going to pass set. He's going to chase the center down the line of scrimmage. And then he is going to turn back, and his responsibility is the first rushing defensive lineman or defensive personnel that recognizes screen and is retracing or is, working back towards the screen. And we call this the rat kill. We're going to take both of our tackles. They're going to pass set. They're trying to invite a C-gap rush. As long as they get the defensive ends in a C-gap rush, then they're just going to continue to vertical set. They're going to actually lose in the C-gap. And if that guy should cross their face and become a B-gap pressure guy, then we've got to take a more aggressive path and fit him up. Or, in the college game, we can cut him. We got to make sure that he doesn't have hands up so he's deflecting the ball in any way. Our number 1 receiver to the screen side that's not getting the football. He's responsible for the corner, the widest defender. If we are in a 2 receiver side, a 2 receivers not getting the footballs, or a 3 receiver set, the number 2 receiver not getting the football is cracking the inside linebacker. And then if we're in quads, which we will get in, the 3rd widest receiver not getting the football is responsible for the play side safety. So all of the rules that I just described to you are absolutely in concrete. It doesn't matter who the screen is to. The screen could be thrown to the number 1 receiver, and then the responsibilities, the rules take care of who everybody has. We can throw it to the number 2 receiver. We can throw it to the number 4 receiver. All of that doesn't matter. So it's it is an expensive install. It is expensive to practice week to week. It does need a lot of time. But at least at our place, we have decided that the time is well spent.
Now, I do have one question. So for like your Z there, depending on the coverage they're given, do you ever tell them just to run off somebody if it's say if it's like true man coverage, or how do you approach that situation?
We do. If we get man coverage, the Z, because he is blocking the guy that is on him or responsible for the guy that's on him, if he gets man, he can outside release that guy, turn his, get his back turned and push him down the field.
All right.
But he's the only one from a responsibility
Okay.
standpoint that if we get man coverage is actually responsible for the defender that has him in man coverage.
All right. Now here. Like I said, this is probably like when I was skipping through. This is my favorite. Like I get excited over this stuff, especially when I saw you had some tackle rings out there.
Yep.
Because that's always the thing on simulating screens and even if you're like an option offense, you can't actually like cut people or hit people half the time the way you need to. And that's where I think bags can be a good simulation, and that's where these great tackle wheels have become a great asset for even offensive coaches, not just defensive guys, on what we can and can't do on the field.
Sure. Well, the first thing you'll notice here is we are wearing absolutely zero protective gear. So the drill that we have going here, we can run this in any scenario. But basically, our two tackles here have got defensive ends on them. They're trying to pass it and bite a C-gap rush. We're throwing the screen to the left. We're throwing it to a three receiver side. So you can see the inside receiver here, I think is wearing jersey number 12. He's cracking on the inside linebacker. And the guy that he's responsible for is the guy holding the shield in the linebacker position.
Yeah.
We still run the center, chasing the guard. He's up and in, and he's going to take the deepest aligned tackle wheel. That's going to represent the first wrong color jersey coming from inside out for the center. Our guard here is going to go flat down the line of scrimmage. The force player is holding a shield, and obviously we're trying to have the head on the upfield shoulder, make sure it's a kick out. And that's those two players, really, the center and the guard, are trying to create that sidewalk for the screen runner.
Okay.
And then we got our backside guard who is working on the rat keel, and he is responsible for the tackle wheel that is just over the center, the nearest tackle wheel.
Yeah. I get you. No, like I said, I think this is great, especially like I mean, obviously you don't need an interior defensive lineman for this. I mean, you need your rat wheel there, as you said, but you don't need, like I said, it's a limited drill. You don't need pads. Like you can do some tackling stuff. It's a good drill, especially for like I take it like for high school coaches like Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays and Thursdays typically are lighter days. Monday's usually your walkthrough day. Maybe light pad work. Thursday, same thing. Even though I've become a big proponent of full pads on Thursdays, day before games. We did that our second year at Fairborn, and I loved it. I thought it prevented flatness on Thursdays personally. But like I said, I think this is a great thing you could do, and like I said, especially for schools that maybe have limited numbers, this is probably a good resource to have.
It is, and again, we're in a typical 75-minute practice, whether it be camp, whether it be in season. We're going to, we're going to do this. We're going to address this concept a minimum of 5 minutes a day. Usually, it's 10 minutes a day, and we will do this. I mean, this is kind of the level one. Part of the repetition, and obviously you're going against, live bodies that are chasing, going to get an 11-on-11 situation, that gets us to level 3. But this is a really good teaching scenario, and we're able to talk about, angles and where the ball is going and educate an offensive lineman. This is why, we're asking you to do what you're doing. And this has just we've been doing this drill probably now for 5 years, and it has just paid huge dividends for us.
Okay. Now, let's kind of move on to some game film here. Obviously, you can run this out multiple sets, and like I said, I think this is even though, like, obviously you don't want whiff there, but a great example of kind of what we just looked at as we kind of continue looking through some of this film. And it also helps when you get athletes the ball in space too, coach. So
It does.
It's a
And
benefit of your offense.
I think that is absolutely critical. I mean, we can, if we locked up the jail screen and fitted everybody up and we threw it to me, we may gain two. But if you can get it to a guy that can wiggle and make the first guy miss, that's when you're going to get your explosive
Yeah.
plays. The one thing that we're going to notice in the film, or the one thing I'd like to point out in this, is everything we've talked about to this point with the offensive line is consistent. It does not change.
Yeah.
But we will change formations. We will add motions to it. We will flower it up. And then the thing that I've kind of intentionally added into this cut up is our backfield action. So here on the very first one, the running back is actually on the backside of the screen. He is running what we would consider the slow screen away. So how do you manipulate and how do you influence guys get defensive eyes going the wrong way? And so here we're running the running back through and he's widening to the right. We actually get the Mike linebacker to open his hips the wrong way here, and he removes himself. And so even though we've got him accounted for with our center, he actually turns the wrong way. And so it certainly makes the job of our offensive linemen, when we can get defenders looking the wrong way, it makes their job so much easier.
Well, the other thing I like watching this and that I love is you don't need kill shots.
Correct.
In honesty, really the burden in terms of blocking is more on the receivers than anybody. Like linemen just gotta get away from. I mean, tackling in space sucks anyways for most kids, especially the smaller the school you get in, especially at high school. So like, I mean, your biggest. I mean, just looking at your receiver at the bottom, he's probably got the toughest block out of the whole group. I mean, in all seriousness, like, so I think that's also a benefit of this is you don't need those linemen who are just going to just blast people.
Oh, that's true. And it becomes, it seems like a point of emphasis in our game now with safety is, not getting kill shots on blindside blocks. So this actually has not affected our screen approach at all. And we don't teach kill shots. We teach to fit them up. We teach basketball defense, whatever the term is that kind of triggers it for you. But it's a very come to balance and a shield approach as opposed to, getting a guy confused about what day of the week it is.
All right. Oh, nope. Too many buttons. There we go. All right. Here's another version of it.
Okay, so here the backfield action, we're actually going to show same side outside zone away from the screen with the running back. So the quarterback catches the snap and he fakes a quick pitch away from the screen. Again, defensive eyes. If we have a run scheme that is successful, we are going to throw the jail screen or the tunnel screen off of it.
Okay.
And this is the same side outside zone is something that we have had success with leading up to this game. And so we just use that as, a little bit of eye discipline challenge for the defense here. And so here we throw the tunnel screen away from the same side outside zone.
I mean, like I said, I love it, Coach. And again, like I said, no, linemen don't need any kill shots here. And like I said, I think when you can tag it off a bunch of things, I think that's where you can be very successful and stuff. Like I've talked to a couple coaches this week about some scheme stuff and on and off camera. And I think one of the things that I constantly look at is how can I apply that to what we do? Okay. I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to throw for 4,000 yards with what we run. But it's like, okay, what screens or play actions or other stuff that trick play, whatever you want to call it, just can apply based off the backfield run game that we have. And I think that's where, again, you guys run wide zone. If you can fake it and then off this, again, I think it's a great asset that you can have.
But again, even though we're changing the backfield action, there's absolutely zero alterations for our guys up front or for our receivers in their blocking area. So it's just the backfield presentation is the only thing that changes.
Okay. And then let's look number 3. Again, trips and
This is the same look. We got the same side outside zone away, but we're now in a 3-by-1 set. And this one, our number 2 receiver, who is jersey number 1, does a really nice job here of fitting the inside linebacker. Again, as you have pointed out multiple times already, by no means is this a kill shot. But he gets him fitted up. He gets the young man stopped, which allows our center here to get all the way up on the safety. And so we have actually got a hat for everybody on the right side of the football here.
yep. I think your receiver there does a very good job at just kind of helping run him up the field. Again, they don't like. I mean, again, that's probably your most difficult block there. But if he wants to scream outside of you and you just want to stay in front of him, like there you go. And
Yeah,
again, the minor details like that are what matters.
absolutely.
And the last time I'll show this, and then we'll kind of go to the next one. Boom. All right.
Okay, this one is it's going to be screened to the 3 receiver side again, but we're going to be over the toes with the running back. So this is, up over the toes outside zone in the backfield. So again, we've run over the toes with our run game. So we feed the defense. We help them with what we believe the defense knows. We give them what they know and then try to get the ball going the other way. So, can we get eye discipline altered or, get them looking in the wrong place to help our guys have, that half-step advantage?
And the other thing I'm noticing here is your kids are always looking for work. And I think that's a culture thing too. And I think we talked a little bit of culture last time we talked too. But that's the aspect. If you got to find work. You just keep climbing up field, find work, find your guy.
And you're exactly right. And we talk about this with every phase, every scheme of our offense. Here we're throwing a screen to jersey number 7. Jersey number 7 is responsible for 1/11th of our success. No more and no less. And so you pick any other jersey number. You got 55 coming out here. He's the right guard coming out to kick the force player. He's responsible for 1/11th of our success, the exact same amount as the guy that's catching the football here. So, it's a culture thing, and it's, just getting our guys to buy into the 10 guys not getting the football, that their job has the exact same weight or importance as the guy that is getting the football.
Last thing before we move on to the next clip, I love, was that 14 right there at the end? Just, okay, smart enough to know not to clip them or do a bad block. Nope, I'm just going to do that. What I call like the old New Orleans Saints block. It's kind of what they did on the special teams, where it's just or the basketball block, because we kind of talked about it during our season with some of the crack stuff we did. Just put your arms in your back in front of them, okay? That way you're cutting off the path. And I think he does a really good job here to help protect 7, so you can get a couple extra yards.
Yes. And so here we should be over the toe. We're going to be over the toes with the back. So we got a run action to the offensive right, but we're bringing the screen guy in motion here. So once again, we're giving the defense something else to look at. Do you adjust to the motion? Okay, you're a zone team. You're not paying a whole lot of attention to him, but we show run away, over the toes, run away, and now we've got the screen coming back. But again, with every one of these backfield variations, now we've added emotion. Not a single player on the team, their responsibility has been altered in any way other than the quarterback and the running back as to what action we're showing.
Okay. Like I said, I think it's a good little wrinkle, Coach. I love adding motion and formational stuff to people, so I think that's a great little addition. And again, like you add play action on top of it, it's another thing that the defense especially it can slow down linebackers even more. Like,
Absolutely.
okay, anytime you can make them think, whether it's because of emotion, because of a play action, because of a shift, I mean that slows them down, whether they want to admit it or not. All right, last time through here. Like I said, I love this little wrinkle right here.
Now this one here is we're going to run slow screen here to the back. We block it exactly the same way. So everybody's responsibility, even though the screen is being thrown to the back, everybody's responsibility is 100% the very same. And I mentioned earlier using what the defense knows against them. Pre-snap, our number 3 receiver is the all-time leading rusher in the history of Shenandoah. He's also the number 2 all-time leading receiver. But we put him in the number 3 position and threw the jail screen or the tunnel screen to him an awful lot, and he was dynamic. But here, showing that same look on the perimeter, getting the defense to really overplay him, and then once the ball gets back to the running back on the single receiver side, there's really not many defenders left. You can see both inside linebackers certainly over pursue to the field side or to the 3 receiver side, and it's just not many guys to block once you get your ball back to the other side.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I love who is that? Right there, just destroying a kid. Like,
well, that's the left guard on the rat kill.
Yeah.
So that was the defensive end on the offensive right that was retracing it, and he caught him and was able to keep him off of the running back, and then it pretty much became a track meet after that.
And like I said, you don't need these kind of blocks to make these plays work, but God, they're beautiful, especially in person. They look great, and that's like I said, I think it's again, it's that sellout effort that we were talking about, the culture thing. It's I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna do it at 100%. And again, like you said, track meet, when you got good electrifying kids, it sells itself. So.
Then this one, I got it from both angles because I think it's really important. Now against this one opponent, we're playing against a tight front team, and the Mike linebacker, they're not a man coverage team, but the Mike linebacker is really locked in on the running back. And so what we did here is we inserted him through the A gap or through the open gap. It was going to be the A gap in the tight front. And we turned him away, and you can see, especially from the end zone, how we get the Mike linebacker, who is our defensive player of the year in the conference. We get him going the wrong way, and he basically removes himself. Now, we've got a center that's responsible for blocking him, but our center here, again, is up on the safety because the Mike linebacker has removed himself from the play. But we get a really good fit from the left guard on the kick out of the force. And we get the center that's up, first wrong color jersey, in this case, becomes the safety. And so we were able to puncture the defense here a little bit.
Now, like I'll kind of compare it to, I was talking to a couple, a D1 offensive staff the other day, and we were talking about really our H-backs and stuff and kind of what they see, and they have teams where the linebackers just stare at the H-back. Like, they try to key it, and this is a great example of that similar concept, is where you're going to use their key against them. Like, if you want to stare at this kid, I'm going to use him as a diversion and take 1 or 2 people out of the play for you if you want to make this poor life choice.
Right. Well, I mean, it's through game planning and through scouting, you figure out, we try to, in our spring game, try to diagnose who is looking at what, and which defensive players are keying which offensive players, and then how can we use that piece of information to our benefit and put them in a position that they are stepping or leaning the wrong way, or opposite the way that we're attacking. So, just as you just talked about with linebackers and eye discipline on the H-back because he typically takes you to the ball. Same concept here.
Okay, so what do we got here, Coach? Because it's obviously a little different variation. I think I've heard of this before, but I don't think I've ever actually seen it drawn up.
Okay, this is our shallow screen. We are going to run the shallow concept against anybody, anywhere, anytime. I don't care what defense you're in. We are going to run the shallow concept, and this is a complement to it. So we are hard calling where the ball's going here. The beauty of this play is it is, as I mentioned, the tunnel screen is incredibly expensive. This screen is incredibly inexpensive. Offensive linemen are not involved in the screen at all. We're asking them to vertical set, basically allow the defense to run up the field, just get out of the way, basically, clear the line of scrimmage. If we run it to a 3-by-1 set, we're going to throw it to the single outside receiver as it is diagrammed here. So in the diagram here, we're throwing the shallow screen to X. And then we have designated blocking responsibilities for our skill guys. So the number one receiver to the screen side, in this case, is our Z. He's going to push crack on the safety. And our number two receiver, he's going to push corner and kick out the defensive corner. We're going to take our number three receiver. If we're in a 3-by-1 set, he's going to crack the inside linebacker. So we're trying to create, again, we use the term sidewalk. We're trying to create a sidewalk between the inside and outside linebackers, and we're trying to squeeze or push the safety towards the middle of the field. And then our running back is going to release to the side that the screen is attacking, and he's going to kick out the overhang or the outside linebacker. So if we can get our shallow screen runner to the center, if we can get him to the center, the offensive center, we have a hat for every defensive player. Now sometimes this is a challenge. Again, we run an awful lot of shallow, so they're trying to redirect and disrupt routes. But if we can get him through clean, this is typically something that we have explosive plays off of. But again, it is incredibly inexpensive, but the offensive line has got to vertical set and allow the guys that want to rush, defensive guys that want to rush, allow them to get past the line of scrimmage. So we get a true separation between the guys that are rushing and the first level of underneath coverage.
Okay. That's where, I think that's harder at the high school level to run something like this before we move on. Because past, and I'm not going to say everywhere. There's certain states where, obviously Texas, Florida, you're true, they have fully adopted the spread and different kind of athletes. But, here, pass rush is not always consistent. It just isn't. And so, you see screens and draws fail all the time just because that guy doesn't rush anyways, so they just die. But I love stuff like this because it's already applicable to stuff you already do with your shallow concepts.
Yes. And so here, this one is obviously it was an explosive play and yielded a touchdown, but our guys did a really nice job here of identifying who they have. And it's all pre-snap. You can see our number three receiver there is pointing out the inside linebacker. He's actually calling him that he thinks he's going to be a pressure guy, that he's going to be a blitz guy. That's what the arm out was. But it's all about, again, eye discipline, so important, understanding I have this guy and where is he? Because we have no control over where the defense aligns. The number one receiver here at the top, he's got the safety, but what if they're in a one high look? This team is typically a two high team. A two high team, the blocking rules here fit a lot better. But here, we did a really nice job of recognizing who we have and just getting a piece of them. Again, this is not a bunch of pancake blocks or a bunch of physical, bruising blocks. It's just getting them tied up a little bit and and timing the block with when the ball's going to get there, and
Yeah.
allowing a guy that, again, is dynamic with the ball to be hard to tackle in space. So here again we're in a 3-by-1 set. We're going to throw it to the single at the bottom. And for the most part, we do a pretty good job of fitting the guys we're supposed to fit. And we end up with, 30, 35-yard game. But,
yeah.
As we're talking about the screen game, I think it's so important to throw screens to guys that can wiggle or guys that can truly run. If we threw this screen again to me, it's, we're gonna fit it up great and gain 3 yards. So, making sure that, certain screens, this was a specialty for jersey number 18.
Yeah.
Really a kid that could really run and, was dynamic and was hard to tackle. And he just had a really good feel for how this screen's supposed to be run.
I'll say, like, that's what I was about to say, is use some explosive kids, coach. Like, and honestly, stuff like this must make it easy to recruit some kids. When you want some kids, you just turn on clips of stuff like this. You're like, here, you can do this.
Well, it does help.
And like I said, again, and again, it's obviously good blocking too at your receiver position. That it is helping this. But like I said, I'm loving this, and kind of like you said, it's a great job, especially by your tackles here of letting kids rush upfield and getting that vertical set and just suit into. Maybe probably even overselling the vertical set to almost a point, but it causes that rush upfield that you need.
Absolutely, and in this concept here, we're asking our offensive linemen, yes, to vertical set, to move their feet, to get their bodies out of the way. But we're not stopping the rush either. The ball's going to be gone. The ball's going to be out of the quarterback's hands before any of those rushing defenders can get there. But don't slow them down. Don't fit them up square and stop their momentum. Let them run themselves out of the play. Okay, here again, 3-by-1. We're going to throw it to the single to the bottom. Gives a little different look. How about if we throw it to a corner that's offsides? But that's another story. But again, the rules, we're getting a 3 safety look here, which, kind of seems to be the wave that things may be going defensively. The rules don't change. Corner still, he's going to the near safety. Obviously, they're going to be able to get one extra defender there quickly. And we don't get the huge gain here, but we're throwing it to a guy and, that's a playmaker for us. And we're telling him, we may or may not get this thing fitted up well. Your job is to make the first defender miss. So if they have an extra guy, it's the screen runner's job to make him miss.
Okay. Again, no earth-breaking blocks there, but again, just get in their way. And like I said, I think it's a great job by your offense there as we kind of continue to do.
This one is interesting. This is out of empty, so this is a quad set. This is true 0-0 personnel, so we don't have a run. We will get in empty with the running back in the game, but this one we actually substituted the running back out, and so we've got 3 inside receivers. The third inside receiver is just going to assume the running back's responsibility of taking the overhang outside linebacker. So it doesn't affect anybody else's responsibility. So again, incredibly inexpensive. Once we get through the install, rules don't change. And this is something that we, can run against just about everybody. We typically don't run it against man teams, but it makes it a little more difficult because we don't do anything to pick the backside corner or the backside OLB, whoever we're throwing the shallow screen to.
Okay.
But here our third inside guy gets a holding call on the OLB, and he deserves it. It was probably the best clip of showing responsibilities. We got everybody going where they're supposed to go. It's just our fifth receiver, our third slot here is probably not in great physical position on the guy that he is responsible for.
And I just see. I wish I would have had this like, oh God, what was it, 8 years ago when I was a freshman head coach, when we ran a lot of quads, because I had 14 kids and I was just trying to move the ball a little bit with all the injuries and everything we have. Stuff like this, it is a non-expensive play for like a quad set. Let's be honest, defensive coordinators hate true quads. Like, there's a big difference between this and then like three receivers and a back to that side. Yes, technically they're both, most defenses classify both as quads, but this is immediate threat stuff. And from a lineup standpoint, it sucks. Let's just be honest. It just sucks, especially if that quarterback can run it all. It's really hard.
Well, let's please don't advertise that to defensive coaches anywhere, okay?
All right. Like I said, I love this stuff. So,
all right, here we're going to throw the shallow screen to the inside receiver closest to us. So no one's responsibility changes. It's just because we removed an inside receiver from the other side or from the screen side, we now do not have anybody responsible for the corner, but nobody's responsibility changes. The number one receiver still has the safety. The inside most slots still cracking the inside linebacker. We just don't have anybody for the corner. What happens here, and one of our rules in all of our screen game, is we don't block blitzers. And so we get field All-American here, boundary All-American, inside and outside from the same side. We get boundary. We're actually running this into boundary All-American. The running back who has the outside linebacker will not block a blitzing linebacker. So he lets the guy go that he has, and he now just climbs to the next wrong color jersey. So he ends up fitting the corner on this.
Okay.
But by assignment, he does not have the corner. He's got the OLB and then to the next wrong color jersey. So the stun or the blitz here actually is what gets him on the corner.
Okay. Like I said, I like that, coach, and it's a good natural pickup. I'll see. Now you're just getting mean. That is.
Well, and it's there's a little story how we got to this one. We may be the worst draw team to throw it an unbelievable amount of times. We may be the worst draw team in America. And if any of the guys that see this can help me run draw, I'd love some input. Basically, what has happened with draw is we're either breaking it for a 15-yard gain or we're getting stuff for -4. And so just the inconsistency in the production was something that I was tired of. And so we actually are now running draw by throwing the football to the running back. And against a typical over or under front, we are not going to block the 3 technique.
Okay.
So we're gonna block the smallest technique, the 2-eye or the shade, and we're gonna again invite the 5 techniques to be C-gap rushers, and then we're gonna release 2 interior linebackers for the 2 interior offensive linemen for the 2 inside linebackers. And we're going to angle release the back, and then as soon as he clears the outside rush of the C-gap rusher, he's going to put his foot in the ground and screen back inside. This ball is actually caught very similar to where the ball on the shallow screen is caught. We're just now throwing it to the running back. And then what we're doing with the wideouts, no matter what formation we're in, is we're just trying to drag all the coverage guys to the sideline. So number 1s are running goes up the boundary, and number 2s are running speed outs. And we're just trying to separate the middle of the field for the screen runner.
Okay.
So here, obviously, we're going to release the back to the right, puts his foot in the ground, works back to the middle. And again, can we create a track meet? If we can get a track meet going, then I like our chances.
Oh, this is just mean, coach. This is just, I love this. Well, that and the other thing is since they're playing too high against you, you have that natural seam up the middle of the field, and like you said, they're naturally going to widen because you have essentially the old fade out combination
Right.
that just especially if you're running like two read, you're going to get natural reactions, or if you're running some sort of um, three man concept like a robber or something out
Right.
there, you're just going to get natural just pulling away.
Again, if we look at the screens that we've looked at so far, um, the tunnel screen I would classify as being extremely expensive. The shallow screen is very inexpensive, and I would classify this one also as being extremely inexpensive. There's got to be some communication with your interior three offensive linemen as to who's releasing, and just with what we ask our interior guys to do, we're having to identify who's the three technique and who's the smallest technique on many of our concepts. And so, it plays into a streamlined communication channel as to, the identification and now who's going to release. And, but this ties in to so many of the things, including the run game that we have is, for our interior three.
Okay.
So here again, exact same concept out of a 2x2 set. We get almost the same result.
That kid you like you said running back you had is pretty dang good, coach.
Well, again, how do you get the ball to guys in space that can wiggle?
It's like if you can't run draw, what's the next best thing? Draw pass.
Yeah. We can't run draw for sure.
Or hey, you gotta get it to him somewhere. Like I said, I love it, and like I said, it's a great job by your kids. And this is just mean.
Okay, here we're running out of a 3x1 set. Again, it doesn't change responsibilities for our receivers. It's just let's separate the defense. Let's get all the routes to the boundary. So now we're getting, it looks like bubble from number 3. Number 2's running a pressure out. And, again, just how do you get the defense's eyes to the sideline as we're trying to attack the middle of the field?
Yep. I mean, anything from a defensive perspective, it just looks like flood. It's a variation of flood. So again, you have to honor that, and then obviously you're going to get some sort of coverage roll because it's trips of some side, unless you just straight man it across the board. So yeah, like I said, I think it's an interesting little. I can honestly say I've never seen a halfback draw, whatever you want to call this. This is a nice little interesting little wrinkle that we've kind of come on to today.
I liked your term, draw pass.
I mean, I don't know what else to call it because it's not like at least the other one. I know I've heard of shallow screen. Like I've seen it before. Like I said, I just had never saw it drawn up. I've watched clips of it, and then obviously tunnel screen's tunnel screen. Most of us know variations of it. But yeah, draw. I mean, draw pass. Like I don't know what the hell to call it, coach. Just.
And here again on this one, the center gets. Our center's eye discipline is not great and doesn't get to the linebacker, but we're playing with an older guy here at center, and he just recognizes that, it's not worth getting in there and cluttering up the area for the guy that's catching the ball. And, so the guy catching the ball, our running back here, just outruns the linebacker. But for the most part, everybody else is in great shape.
Yeah.
And again, it's just how do we turn it into a track meet? So here, 3x1, we're actually going to run it to the single receiver side. This particular team, if we went 3x1, they would feather the end, to the running back side. And so we felt like that we were going to be able to throw it to the weak side against them. And we basically got what we thought we were going to, but, we were able to get enough space there that we could, get in the secondary and try to make them make tackles in space.
And again, that's the thing as a defensive coach, you don't want to. I mean, that's the thing you dread at times is getting kids to tackle in space. Like I said, that's just mean.
And then this is the last one we actually got. This is cover 1, or actually, excuse me, it became cover 0 with the pressure. But our guards and center did a nice job of, identifying who's staying in and who's releasing. And then our right guard did a really nice job of identifying man coverage here and picks off the defender right at the line of scrimmage.
And I'm going to say this, and this is not a knock on any defensive coach, is what I'm about to say. I don't understand, and I see this at high school, college. NFL's different just because of the level of athlete you have and what you can do. I don't understand personally. I've never understood this. Like, it's as a former defensive coach, even if you're in cover 0, whatever. I don't get leaving nobody in the middle of the field, because that's what you're. Like, I understand if you don't want to play cover 1 or cover 3. I get that. I get that argument. You want to leave too high, middle of the field, whatever. But you at least, in theory, have probably a Mike back underneath, and your two guys are still somewhat in the middle of the field to a point. Like, I just don't get where there's nobody, and that's why, like, stuff like this can be work. And, like, we saw this against a team this year, essentially, like, that's what I called a 7-1. You go empty, they clear out everything. We ran quarterback trap twice up the field for touchdowns. Like, seriously, like, because, I mean, when you don't have anybody in the middle of the field and you have an athlete, a quarterback, I just need you to get our line to get in people's ways. And this is the same concept. If they rush and guys just get in somebody's way, your running back catches the ball, he's one-on-one with a safety who's, 5, 10, 15, probably by the back pedal 17 yards deep. So, and rolling away from the running back. So I don't know. That's just me. So,
well, you got to assume that when you take that approach that you're going to get there before the play develops. And it just, this was just a case where, they sold out on the pressure, and we had a play call that allowed us to get the ball out of our hands before they could get there. So, it's just lucky for us. How about that?
Yeah. Like I said, that's not a knock on any defensive coach. It's just from my mental standpoint, I just don't understand it. And again, there's coaches that coach college who are much smarter than me, who have much more experience. And again, I could just not understand it, but that's just my opinion. All right, and then here's what's this little fun one we're wrapping up on here, Coach.
All right, this is the last one. This is a read screen. We actually are screening both ways here. So to the side of the running back's alignment, we are not blocking the 5 technique that way. We're going to completely let the 5 technique go. Quarterback's going to catch the snap, and he's reading that 5 technique. If he is a pass rusher, we're going to just flip it to the running back, and we got 2 receivers out there. We're releasing the guard and the tackle out there, so we're going to have numbers. So this is, my players laugh at me. There's a little age difference between me and them, but they laugh at me because I call this the 2020 version of toss sweep. They don't know what toss sweep is, but that's okay. If that unblocked 5 technique, if he should peel with the back, just try to match him or widen it all. Quarterback then just plants his foot, wheels, and we're throwing tunnel screen back the other way to number 1. And our tunnel screen rules are 100% identical to what we already talked about. The one thing we don't have, if we get it back to the tunnel screen, is we do not have the rat keel because he's out in front of the swing screen to the running back. But everything else, responsibility is 100% identical to what we open this with.
Okay.
So here on the very first one, we're going to actually we get a reduced front. This might be the easiest read in the history of football. The guy we're reading is in a 4-eye technique. And so, again, tall sweep, circa 2020. So there we go.
That's funny, Coach. That is truly...
And so here we're running it the other way. Again, reading the end, he kind of is a little bit non-committal as to what he's doing. We've got him out leveraged, so let's get the ball to a pretty talented guy in space with friends in front of him, and let's just go see if we can outrun everybody.
See, you just need to show Vince Lombardi's old toss sweep install, like 5-minute little video before you install this. It's just the same thing. It's just we're making an alley. We're making. See, the younger coaches or the players will have no idea who that is, but at least, yeah, it's funny.
Is that? That's like the trophy of the Super Bowl winner, right?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Here's an example here. The end does kind of feather with the back, and so we get the ball back to the backside of this, to the tunnel screen to number one. And again, the widest receiver not getting the football is our slot, our number 2 receiver, so he blocks the one widest defender. So we get the corner sealed outside. We get the guard out. He's up and in, it ends up being up and in because of the reaction of the defense. But he's got the overhang player. And then our center does a nice job fitting here, and we're able to sneak this one in the end zone.
That's perfect, Coach.
And then the last flip is swing screen this way against a 4-man front. Defensive end's going to peel. So once again, we wheel and we throw the tunnel screen back the other way to the number 1 receiver.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good little concept to end on. And the last question I have for you before we go, Coach, is if a coach was considering adding any of these, do you have any coaching points or suggestions or words of wisdom to kind of give them before we go?
I just think it's important that we all have spots, and the leopards don't change their spots. Be true to what you believe in. If you're a wing tee guy, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the wing tee, I don't think the tunnel screen is a great fit. But do things off of what you're already doing. If you're difficult to defend as you are, make sure that what you add in the screen game complements what you're already good at in the run or the pass game. And it just becomes an extension of what you're already doing. So, don't try to get rid of all your spots and have stripes, but just be true to you and what you're doing. And I think you can take, and this is exactly what we've done at Shenandoah. We've taken little pieces of the screen game from different places and kind of melded them together to what we're doing. And it fits it fits the young men that we recruit, and it complements what we do outside of the screen game, whether it be in the run game, whether it be in the 3-step pass game, or whether it be in the concept-based 5-step game. It just, we're not going to add something just because it's, the latest and the greatest, coolest idea out there. If it doesn't fit, it's a great idea, and we'll put it in a folder, and maybe, sometime down the road it does fit. But, just continuing to try to complement what we're already doing well, and hopefully making us just a little bit more difficult to defend.
Well, coaches, if you want to check out anything else by Coach, I'm going to put the link to his first podcast with us in the bio. That way, if you want to check that out, you can. You can also, if you want to check out any clinics by Coach, he does have a video on CoachTube. If you want to check that out, I'll put that link in the bio as well. He did something for our state clinic as well. So if you want to look up the Ohio High School Football Coaches Association clinic, you can check it out there. And then you can also follow Coach on Twitter. His Twitter bio will be down there. Give him a follow, and you can reach out to him about a myriad of things. Again, Coach is a longtime air raid guy. Got some experience with the run and shoot as well. So please give him a follow and reach out to Coach. Like, share, subscribe. The video portion of this, if you don't want to hear us babble while this is, will probably end up on the Patreon like the prior video. I'll talk to Coach about that. And then, again, stay safe, stay healthy, and Thank you for listening to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.